Hi guys, unless you just woke up from a coma, and even if you did, you probably still know that Sony announced the A7IV, the Alpha 7 IV, they are calling it. Now, is this the perfect camera for me? No. Does it have everything I wanted in the camera? No. Did I pre-order it? You bet your sweet buttocks. Let's talk about it. So I will get into some spec-heavy comparisons that people seem to like on my channel, comparing the Alpha 7 IV to the A7 III. Am I still allowed to call this A7 III? Sony, and of course the Canon R6 and the Nikon Z6 II, which are probably the most direct competitors. Although here in Canada, the S1R just got a huge price cut, and maybe they're trying to get people to buy that high-res camera instead of the Sony A7 IV. Now here's the thing, I am going to be looking at this in only the Sony ecosystem. Like whether or not I want a competitor brand, it's not going to be the question right now, because I already have Sony cameras and Sony lenses. So I will be looking at this in the Sony ecosystem, at least in this particular video. Now here's the thing, I never did buy the Sony A7S III. As good of a camera as that was, it's $5,000, body alone here in Canada, and to have the 12 megapixels, I wanted to have a camera that took really good photos and a camera that also was a great video camera. And I know that the A7S III can take really good photos, but the 12 megapixels, I like to shoot landscapes and portraits, and I like to do video. But for the landscapes, there is cropping. I also like to do street photography, where cropping does happen, and I also like to print out pictures and hang them on my stupid wall. So I do like the extra megapixels that other cameras offer compared to the A7S III. And there was one more reason, and that is crop mode. On the little A7 III, you can go into APS-C crop mode, and you can get further reach out of your lenses when it comes to video. If you go into crop mode on the Sony A7S III, you go down to 1080. So I actually do use the crop mode in video a fair bit. One thing I don't use a lot is 120. So the 4K 120 of the A7S III wasn't that appealing to me, and I do occasionally use 60, and you can do that on the A7 IV, but of course with the crop that everybody is very mad about. But for me, the way I shoot, that crop is not going to be that big of a deal, because when I go to shoot the slow motion for the 60p, then I will plan that shot and I will have the lens appropriate for that shot. But I get it, if you're somebody who's trying to do an event, you're doing a wedding, you have the camera on a tripod or a gimbal, and then you want to switch to slow motion quickly, and you get that huge crop that ruins your framing, yeah, that is a problem. But I'm just saying, for me, it isn't. So since the A7S III wasn't good enough for me in terms of photos, when you're looking at photos, you know, there's the A7R IV that I looked at for a little while, but that is, again, that's $4,400 Canadian, and it has the 61 megapixels, which is great for the landscape and the street photography, but the video specs are pretty crappy, and that's not really great either. Now the A1 costs $1 million, and it has great video features, but it has no flip out screen. So in a perfect world, I think I would buy the A1 for photos and the A7S III for my video needs. But the thing is, I enjoy not being murdered by my wife, so I am not going to remortgage our house to get those cameras. So again, I had to wait. I had to wait for something that was going to be appealing enough for both video and photo. See, because what you're looking at right here is the GH5, and in 2017 this little bad boy came out with 10-bit 422 60p, no crop by the way, but it is a micro four thirds sensor, so it's not great in low light, and it's a Panasonic, and Panasonic are doing the contrast based autofocus, which isn't as reliable as Sony, so you're always going to have to use manual focus. So if I could get a camera that did 10-bit 422, so I could use, say, S-Log3 in the Sony camera. I use the V-Log on the GH5. So if I had a camera that could do 10-bit 422, but was also full frame and fantastic in low light, and had that Sony autofocus, so that when I did go to shallow depth of field, or I was running around shooting, I could rely on the autofocus. Now that would be an upgrade for the video specs. And then a 33 megapixel camera instead of even a 24 megapixel camera with updated autofocus as well in photos. Well, that fits the bill now, doesn't it? And that is the Alpha 7 IV. Is it perfect? No. Here's my major complaint. I know most people's major complaint is the crop in the 60p, but as I explained earlier in the video, do you remember that is not a deal breaker for me? The LCD screen was almost a deal breaker for me. I decided, I took a deep breath and I decided, don't worry about it. You look through your viewfinder when you need to review your pictures. Like it's a million dots. This 2017 GH5, 1.44 million dots. This is a G7 from 2015. This has the same amount of dots as the A7 IV in 2021 for $2,500 American. I'm just, Sony, if you're listening, and why would you? Nobody watches me, but if you're listening, for the love of God, update the LCD screen. This is not just like I like seeing pretty things on my camera. It's when I'm taking photos, people have paid me money to take their photos. And when they get those photos, when I send them to them, they say, Mark, you're a genius. How did we live without your photos? You have changed our lives. But on the day of the shoot, do you think I like to see them see the back of that camera? No, I do not. And if I do want people to review the picture for some reason, I say, look through the viewfinder. Don't look at the screen. I just cover it up with black tape because it looks like dog crap. But maybe LCD screens are the most expensive part of a camera. What do I know? I'm not a camera engineer, and the rolling shutter is not that great either, but I didn't have a major problem with that on the A7 III, so I'm definitely not going to have a problem with it on the A7 IV. It's just not how I shoot. And oh, one more thing. The A7 IV comes with the Catalyst browse. I didn't hear anybody talk about that at all. And if you watch this channel, and you should, because I'm fantastic, I talk a lot about the Catalyst browse because I love it. It blows me away. I have a little ZV-E10 because it is a great value camera. That is the theme going through this video, value. I want a camera that gives me the most amount of value for the money that I am spending, and the little ZV-E10 is a video powerhouse for $700 when you think about it, and it has the Catalyst browse, has the gyro data, and the gyro data, you put it in through the Catalyst browse, and you can just, it looks like a gimbal. It looks absolutely fantastic. I love it. Now, here is a problem with the Catalyst browse and the A7 IV. So the A7 IV I plan, the Alpha 7 IV I plan to do 10-bit, of course, because it has it. Why would I not use it? But in the Catalyst browse, if you run it through, it takes the 10-bit and goes down to the 8-bit. Thanks to Shane from Geeky Nerdy Techie for pointing that out. But it goes down to 8-bit. I don't like that unless you buy the Catalyst browse subscription, the upgrade, which I'm probably gonna do, but that really, really sucks. And Sony, if you're listening, if you're still watching this video for some reason, then let us use 10-bit in the Catalyst browse, you know, because you shouldn't keep people back from this feature that makes your cameras look fantastic when you're out vlogging. Now, I get that the A7 IV is not the monumental leap away from the competition that the A7 III was back in the day for the price, but it is better than the A7 III in pretty much every way. And I have a fantastic camera with a higher megapixel count than before so that I can do the types of photos that I want to do with the cropping and the printing. I have 10-bit 422, 24p is what I use almost all the time, and when I do use slow motion, it usually is 60p, and I can deal with that crop. To me, it is definitely worth the money. Don't forget about the Catalyst browse, that gyro data, so that I can have ridiculously gimbal-like footage. I know a lot of people wanted higher frame rates. They're saying you get like 6 frames per second in uncompressed RAW, and that is not good enough for sports shooters, and that's fair, or people shooting birds, yeah, that's fair. But I don't shoot those things, so I don't need that level of burst. I just usually shoot single shot. 5-6 frames per second is plenty for me, and it probably is for a lot of people. I get it. It might be disappointing if, you know, you wanted that type of speed and you were looking for a camera in this price range. But Sony had to make some decisions, and they decided to go with those video specs and those camera specs, and luckily for me, most of them suit my needs, except for the terrible LCD screen. So to me, it really is a great all-in-one camera. But leave your comments below. Tell me what you think of the camera, whether or not it's what you wanted or if it's good enough for you. I mean, you probably won't change my opinion because I'm super arrogant and I rarely listen to other people, but I think the camera suits me well, and I'm definitely gonna get it. And if you want to see that camera compared to a bunch of other cameras in the real world besides just specs, don't forget to subscribe, like, all those things. Okay, we'll see you soon. All right, bye-bye. You have 1,000,000 dots. You're just as good as the A7 IV.